Hi everybody, I'm Ryan, and today we're going to talk about flex slots in the new red-black aggro deck in Pioneer. Now the deck as a whole has been pretty figured out, but there are some flex slots that exist in this red-black aggro deck. By the way, if you'd like to learn about other parts of this red-black aggro deck, I have posted a deck tech and a sideboard guide previously on the channel. Be sure to check those out. But let's jump right into the not flex slots of the deck. These are the cards in the red-black deck that you can't really change. These are stock. So when you plan on making this deck or tuning this deck, these are the cards that really need to stay put, which if you look at the numbers at the top means that there are 5 flex slots in the main deck and 6 flex slots in the sideboard. So knowing that these are the cards that we're not going to touch, let's look at the flex slots. In those 5 slots, you can play any combination of 1 more claim to fame, that's the second claim to fame, fatal pushes 1 through 3, Ancestral Anger number 4, Reckless Rage 1 and 2, or a single Dreadhorde Arcanist. Now, each of these have different things that they're good against. Claim to Fame is, 1 black, you return target creature card mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield, which is very, very good against decks that have non-exile removal and decks that things might go kind of long because you can still put on the pressure and not have to run a worse creature than you're already running. And the Fame side, it's Aftermath, which means we cast it from graveyard after we cast Flame, is target creature gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn, which if we have a ton of mana, we can bring something back and give it haste. But again, it's mostly if you plan on playing against decks like red-black midrange or maybe the mirror match or something like that has non-exile removal, you might want to be playing Claim. Fatal Push is the best removal spell in Pioneer, bar none. It's 1 black instant, destroy target creature's mana value 2 or less. And then if we have Revolt, where if a permanent you controlled left the battlefield this turn, we deal something with mana value 4 or less. Now this kills most things in the format, especially things that you care about since you're killing very, very quickly and are only worried about cheap stuff. But it's mostly good in our deck if we're playing against a lot of the mirror match or aggro decks or things like that, which is a good idea at this very moment because this deck is very popular. The 4th, Ancestral Anger. Ancestral Anger is just a pretty good pump spell if you want to be more all in on the primary plan rather than running this other kind of cute stuff in interaction, then you should be playing the 4th Ancestral Anger. The 2, Reckless Rage is an alternate to the Fatal Push. I think you should be running a maximum of 3 removal spells, minimum of 2 of any combination between Fatal Push and Reckless Rage. So if you're running the 3 Fatal Push, I would put you on 0 Reckless Rage. If you're running up the entire 2 Reckless Rage, I would be only on like 1 Fatal Push in the main deck. But Reckless Rage is an instant, deals 4 damage to target creature you don't control and 2 damage to target creature you control. When we do that, the cards in our deck don't really die when we do that because they either have prowess or maybe we've pumped them up with a monster token or another pump spell or something like that. So the reason we would play a card like this is for creatures that our opponent have that are 3 or 4 mana because it's kind of hard for us to trigger Revolt, but toughness 4 or less. So I'm thinking of cards like Graveyard Trespasser or Adeline or things like that. If you're going to be playing against a lot of decks with those creatures and you're more worried about that, then I would be playing Reckless Rage. If you plan on playing against a lot more like Aggro, I'd be playing Fatal Push. And then the Dreadhorde Arcanist is a 1/3 with Trample, and whenever it attacks, you may cast target instant or sorcery card with mana value less than or equal to Dreadhorde Arcanist power from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. That spell would be put into your graveyard, exile it instead. This card would be good against decks that the game's going to go long, that you're actually going to have a graveyard by the time you're attacking with Dreadhorde Arcanist, decks that Dreadhorde Arcanist is going to survive against. And so I would play the Dreadhorde Arcanist if you're a little worried about the interaction interrupting your first push and want to reuse those cards in the graveyard because the game is going to go long. In the sideboard, we've already talked about Fatal Push. By the way, notice there are 5 total Fatal Push here. So obviously you're playing 3 Fatal Push in the main deck. You can play maximum of 1 in the sideboard. I feel like I shouldn't have to mention that, but I know I'm going to get a comment regarding it. But Fatal Push, very good against other aggressive decks, mostly. Feed the Swarms, 2 mana sorcery, destroy target creature or enchantment an opponent controls. You lose life equal to that permanent's mana value. This card's specifically very good against temporary lockdown, because temporary lockdown is just nutter butters against us, but also is decent against other aggro decks or whatever. Where I talked about the value of Reckless Rage, and then you could play the, I guess, second or third claim to fame in the sideboard where I talked about the value of claim to fame. So these are the flex slots in the deck right now. You pick 6 of these. So really just take 1 away because there are 7 options for these flex slots. And that's how you're going to initially tune your red, black, sly, aggro, whatever you want to call it deck. It's amazing that such a new deck is already so figured out. And the innovation really is just changing up these flex slots to be better against the decks that you're going to be playing against. So if you like these analysis and like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.